market value surged past the $3 trillion mark. For the first, Alphabet achieves a $3 trillion market capitalization, cementing
What
its
changes a
place among the
$3
world's
trillion company? Habits do, not slogans. Google's Gemini is topping app downloads and shifting the financial market, while getting set to be in your home and business soon. If Gemini achieves its purpose and becomes the default way families search, draft, and talk to the speaker in their kitchen, they would have turned the novelty into household lifetime value. Think of it as the Netflixication of answers by an assistant that writes every grocery list, school assignments, and email. Its service will command a barely noticed monthly toll. Today, we'll do a deep dive into how Google is unlocking a new consumer subscription lane, and if the gross margin math can keep up with the hype. This is not financial advice. This is for educational consumption only. Please do your research before making any decision. Let's begin at home, where habits are built. When the same assistant runs your phone and kitchen speaker, you are no longer just testing AI. You are living with it. At the point when you are asking it to set up a pasta timer, add paper towels to a list and turn off the lights, these tasks cease to be milestones. They become repeated everyday habits that turn a tool into a part of the household. Google has been upfront about where this is headed. They aren't just adding new features to Nest speakers. They are replacing the core assistant entirely. In their own words, it will replace Google Assistant on existing speakers and displays, with early access starting in October, according to blog.google. This sentence means Gemini won't need a marketing push every time someone buys a smart speaker. It will simply be present by default. And default is powerful. Once a product is the built-in option, people adapt to it, learn its quirks, and keep using it long after the novelty fades. This is more than a user experience decision. It's a financial strategy. Default placement makes it far more likely that when people reach a usage cap, they'll pay for an upgrade rather than switch away. Over time, this pattern becomes recurring revenue. So their pricing power doesn't come from features alone. It comes from being the option that people already live with day in, day out. Gemini's rise comes down to timing. What started as a viral spark has now lined up with a clear plan to make money. The spark came from visuals. A new image editing model inside the Gemini app caught fire on social media. It was quick, flashy, and fun to use. Inside Google, it even picked up a playful name, Nano Banana. That small detail gave the model personality, and it helped the buzz spread even further. More importantly, it drove downloads at scale. The headlines told the story. Google's Gemini is number 1 on Apple's top free app charts for the US. That came from 9 to 5 Google. Google 360 added, Gemini's iOS app reached the first spot in both India and the United States. Those are not small markets. That kind of attention converts quickly into millions of installs. But here's the key. Downloads are only step 1. Attention is free until people run into their first limit. That moment, the wall, is called the cap. And right behind the cap is a price tag. That is where the funnel begins and where the real economics of Gemini comes into play. So here's the subscription strategy in plain terms. The free users get to try the magic, but they run into daily limits. The Pro plan costs about $20 a month with a little more room. And there's Ultra, the premium tier, at $249.99 per month, built for heavy usage and early access to new tools. You don't need to memorize every detail of the pricing chart. Just two anchor numbers tell the story. The first comes straight from Google's blog. Google AI Ultra is available today in the United States for $249.99 per month, 50% off for your first 3 months. The second comes from Verizon's frequently asked questions. Get a Google AI Pro plan for $10 per month, a $19.99 month value. That $10 price point is critical. It's a sleight of hand in pricing. The carrier absorbs part of the cost, so the customer only sees $10. Google still gets a paying subscriber and the barrier to entry drops sharply. Verizon even spelled it out. An additional $10 per month, half of what Google charges. This isn't just a discount, it's a growth strategy. By lowering the sticker shock, carriers help Google build a paying base faster, turning downloads into recurring revenue without waiting for households to fully commit on their own. Speaking about the limits on the free plan, they are not a bug, but a meter that nudges people from the free to the paid plan. Google's Help Center spells it out in plain terms. 5 prompts a day on the free plan, 100 on Pro, and 500 on Ultra, with bigger context windows at the higher tiers. The Verge reported it just as clearly. Google has officially clarified the usage limits. Free plan 5 prompts per day, AI Pro 100, AI Ultra 500. This is the cleanest kind of funnel. You let people enjoy the free tier until they run into the wall. Once they're hooked, the upgrade feels natural. It's easy to explain in one line. I used up my 5, I'll upgrade. If the value is there, people pay. If not, they stay free. Either way, the limits quietly do the selling. For businesses, the strategy is even cleaner. Instead of selling every department a separate add-on, Google bundles Gemini directly into Workspace. That puts it right where employees already spend their days, inside Google, inside Gmail, Docs, and Meet. No new software to learn, no extra steps. It just shows up by default. Then comes the financial play. Rather than forcing a new line of approval, Google can simply nudge the overall seat price higher. The procurement sees one line item on the bill, not 10. That makes adoption frictionless, and it spreads quickly across teams. In practice, it's another sleight of hand. Bundling first, then pricing later. People adopt what's already in their workflow, and by the time the uplift hits the invoice, the habit is already locked in. That's how usage at scale becomes revenue at scale. Now let's talk about the money side, where the real tension is. Running AI is expensive, and every prompt has a price tag. The larger the model, the faster the costs climb. At scale, those costs can eat through margins quickly. Google knows this, and they've built a workaround. Instead of relying on one massive model to handle every request, they've created a portfolio of models and quietly route tasks behind the scene. Heavy jobs like analyzing long documents go to Gemini 2.5 Pro. Google says it ships with 1 million token context window, with 2 million coming soon. That kind of horsepower is impressive, but it's also costly. Everyday jobs like setting a timer, adding to a list, drafting a short note, are handled by lighter models like Flash and Flashlight. These models are faster, cheaper, and designed exactly for the kind of casual asks that happen dozens of times a day in households. Google frames Flash as low latency and cost efficient, and that's the whole point. It keeps the experience smooth without draining the balance sheet. Here's another sleight of hand. To the user, everything feels seamless. You ask for a timer, a draft, or a long summary, and the response just arrives. But behind the curtain, Google is quietly steering most of the traffic to the cheaper models, while reserving the expensive horsepower for the hardest jobs. Let's think of it in terms of road usage. Cars cruise down the regular lanes every day, fast, efficient, and low cost. Only the heavy trucks take the toll road, and they are the ones paying the premium. That's exactly how Google protects its margins. The bulk of everyday traffic runs cheap. The heavy loads pay the price. The invisible routing is crucial for margins. Investors watch it closely. The more requests handled by Flash, the more room Google has to protect gross margin while scaling subscriptions. That balance between user experience and cost control may decide whether Gemini turns into a profitable platform or just another viral product chasing scale without economics. Here's another cost that doesn't show up on any invoice. If users feel the images are fake, unsafe, or deceptive, they step back. And when users hesitate, advertisers pull back too. Google's response is to build proof directly into the product. In their own words, all images created or edited with Gemini 2.5 Flash image will include an invisible SynthID digital watermark. Developer blog. They also launched the SynthID detector, explained like this. The SynthID detector can help determine if an image created using Google AI contains a synth watermark. Now, watermarks aren't magical. They won't prevent every odd or offensive edit from going viral, but they are a signal. They show that an image came from AI, and they give the public a way to check for themselves. They help ease the "is this fake" anxiety. And lowering that anxiety is essential if Gemini is going to move from novelty to trusted daily tool. So, is Wall Street noticing? Yes. On September 15, Alphabet crossed the $3 trillion in market cap for the first time. Reuters reported it directly. Alphabet reached a market capitalization of $3 trillion for the first time. One day doesn't make a thesis, but the moment is telling. Investors don't just move on hype, they move when they see a path from buzz to business. The story arc is visible: a viral spark, mass adoption, a clear pricing strategy, and then valuation optimism. Markets reward belief in the short run, but they pay for results in the long run. And the question investors are asking now is whether Gemini's funnel can actually deliver those results. Let's do some napkin math and see what this can mean in dollars. Say the viral surge cools and Gemini settles at around 20 to 30 million monthly active subscribers, keeping that estimate conservative. Now, if just 2 to 5% of those users move from free to paid, you are looking at about 400,000 to 1.5 million paying households. At $20 a month, that adds up to roughly $100 to $360 million a year in consumer subscription revenue. Then add the carrier bundles. That $10 perk brings in people who would never pay $20. The average revenue per user is lower, but the habit is the same. The point is squeezing every dollar upfront. It's scaling fast, turning a one-time download into something families use every day for lists, edits, and homework. And remember, all of that is before the Ultra tier, before Workspace seat prices start to rise, before the enterprise wave even begins. This isn't meant to be precise forecasting, it's sanity check math, a way to turn buzz into a revenue range that investors and finance teams can actually track. And here's the Wall Street angle. Even a few $100 million in run rate revenue can shift investor sentiments. Now picture how the habit really forms. It's a weekday evening, you're making dinner, your kids need a reminder set for a soccer practice, and you realize the rent payment is due. You say, set a reminder for soccer at 5, draft a quick note to the landlord, add milk to the shopping list. If it works without friction, you don't stop to think about AI, you just think, this makes life easier. A week later, you hit your 5 prompt cap right in the middle of a busy day. The upgrade screen appears. You weigh the time you've saved and decide it's worth it. You subscribe. A month later, you barely remember signing up, it's simply part of the routine. At work, the same pattern takes hold. You drop a messy update into Docs, clean the Gemini icon, and in seconds, it becomes a polished status report. No new software, no training curve, no sales pitch. It just works. The default did the selling. Now there's a few pressure points in Google's strategy. Caps are meant to push people to upgrade, but if they feel too tight, users may split their time with competitors. Watermarks are meant to build trust, but one bad viral edit can shake confidence overnight. Ultra's price at $249.99 is bold, but if the value feels thin, it becomes a punchline instead of a premium. These are the pressure points that will decide if the funnel holds. For investors and operators, 3 areas matter the most. On the consumer side, track monthly active users, measure how many free upgrade to Pro, count how many join through carrier bundles, and monitor in the first 3 months. On the enterprise side, track workspace seat prices, measure adoption inside Docs, Gmail, and Meet, and check if employees are actually using Gemini once it's bundled in. On the cost side, monitor how much traffic routes to Flash versus Pro, track the average tokens per request, and measure server efficiency. If these numbers move in the right direction, Gemini will be in big business, but if they slip, the whole funnel cracks. Step back a bit and look at the bigger picture. In technology, it's not always the flashiest feature that wins, it's about distribution. If Google becomes the voice in your kitchen and the quiet helper inside Docs, then the game is already tilted. Once a tool is everywhere, the details matter less. People stay because it's there by default. That's why the App Store #1 moment mattered so much. It wasn't the victory lap, it was the on-ramp. It showed that when Google dangles something fun, people rush to try it. The real test comes after. That's when the funnel decides who stays, who pays, and who walks away. Let's recap the economics in 4 simple bits. Default at home and at work creates habit. Caps and bundles turn habits into revenue. Smart routing keeps costs under control. And if the value holds, pricing power follows. That's the funnel stripped down to plain language. Google made a smart move by publishing the limits upfront in simple numbers that are easy to understand. That transparency builds trust for households, IT managers, or anyone deciding whether to upgrade. That's how novelty becomes recurring revenue. And the market has shown that it's willing to believe. With Alphabet crossing the $3 trillion market cap, it all boils down to this. Will Gemini's party trick grow into a steady paycheck that rewires Google's revenue, or become a forgotten footnote in the tech race? Why not put your thoughts in the comment section below?